Hi, I'm Kathy Hester and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make the best creamy Southern style black-eyed peas. And it's so easy. We just don't only have a few ingredients here. I've got some liquid smoke and smoked paprika. If you are a I hate smoky foods person, you can leave the smoke out and you can use regular paprika. We're going to use some garlic. I've cheated and I'm using some that's already pre-chopped. And then I have some chopped onions. And I wanted to tell you too, I know I have a little YouTube about where I chop onions and put them in the freezer like this, but it's awesome. I had a little bit of onion chopped up in the fridge already. So instead of having to go get another onion, I just knocked that puppy on the counter and filled it on up. Now I am using Rancho Gordo's, Super Lucky 2022 black-eyed peas. Fingers crossed, because here in the South, I'm in North Carolina, we always eat black-eyed peas for luck on New Year's Day. We also eat collard greens to bring money. And it used to be pork to bring health, which is a little bit weird, especially being vegan. But I think you could substitute that for tofu or tempeh and be way healthier. Or just leave it out completely, because these black-eyed peas and adding in some collard greens is just going to make your New Year's so delicious. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is saute some of this onion, but let me give you a little bit of a tip too. If you didn't want to, maybe it's New Year's Day today and you're like, I don't have any onions or garlic. Use onion powder and garlic powder instead, and skip this step altogether. While this is sauteing, I'm going to go rinse my black-eyed peas. That will probably not be in this video, but just know that I'm going to just rinse them lightly. Since the Rancho Gordo stuff is usually really pretty clean, but what can happen is you can have little dirt balls or little rocks. So there's nothing that's going to make your New Year not go so well as having to go to the emergency dentist. So make sure you look through the beans, especially if they're not from a source that you're used to. And by look through the beans, literally you can spread them on the counter. I'm going to put these in a colander and we'll look through them that way. So I'll bring it back in a minute, but for right now I'm going to turn this to saute and press start. So if you don't have an Instant Pot, you could do this on the stove. It's just the cooking time is going to change. That's all, and you may need a little more water since you'll lose water on the stove. I do have a slow cooker recipe for this on healthyslowcooking.com. So you can just up at the top, there's a little search bar and you can click that and put in black-eyed peas and a few recipes will come up. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon or two of water in here because I'm not using oil to saute. If you use oil, the important thing is let the oil heat up before you add your onions. If you're using water, it's 50-50. Also, some of my onions are frozen, so it's going to take the temperature down and come back up and just take longer to saute, which I'm fine with, because that's still less time than it would have taken me to cut an onion right now at this very second. So because I'm using water, I'm just going to go ahead and put the onion in. I'm going to wait till the onion is translucent before I add my garlic. Also, it's very important because we're cooking beans, you don't want to add any salt until after the beans are cooked. I know there's lots of different feels about that, but I am all about the safe over sorry, personally. Okay, I have the fan going. And I'll move this just ever so slightly, so maybe it won't be quite on the lens. And you can even use no water if you want to. I do this whenever I'm doing videos and things just to ensure that I don't overcook and burn things. But if you're paying attention and standing right over here, you can do it without any water or anything. But as you see, I go around all kinds of things. So I'm going to move this over to the side a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of show you. So they're just washed, and these are really good. So if you have a larger size colander, that can help any of the dirt to come out of it. But you really, what my mom used to do is literally lay out the dry beans all over the counter, go through them, pick out things, and then put it in a bowl and wash it. And that's all there really is into what I call looking the beans, which is what my mom called it. And it's just about making sure there's no foreign objects in it. Now, if you want to be in Rancho Gordo Bean Club, just sign up on the waiting list now. Sometimes the waiting list can be a year or 2 years long. However, there's nothing wrong with getting black-eyed peas at your local grocery store. Nothing at all. Let's go in here. We're going to go ahead, see how this is starting to turn translucent, and we're going to add in about a teaspoon of garlic. And if you like garlic and onions more, and you're like, I wish there was more of that, this is yours now. It's not mine anymore. So you put in whatever you want to put in. And that's the way that should be. Okay. Oh, it smells so good. It's amazing how just onions and garlic smell so terribly amazing. Now, this recipe we're doing right now is on plantbasedinstantpot.com because it's in the Instant Pot. The slow cooker version is on Healthy Slow Cooking. But I'm using just 1.5 cups of black-eyed peas in that recipe. And we're doing this a little bit differently because this had 2 cups, actually heaping 2 cups of beans in there. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. You have to hit cancel to go from sauteing to then going and pressure cooking in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little over 4 cups of water, which is a little more than what the recipe down below calls for because I'm using more peas. Okay, we'll get every last little one of those guys in there. And remember, we did not soak these, okay? There's nothing good, bad, or indifferent about that. It's just what we did. And we're going to go ahead and put about 1/4 teaspoon of liquid smoke. And actually, let me put the cap back on so I can show you. This one is really good, and I'll link to it below. And it literally, the only ingredient in here is liquid smoke. So it's just natural liquid smoke. Nothing funny. If you like things smoked, typically these beans, these peas, I'm going to put half because we added a little bit more and I like things extra, extra smoky. And then we're going to put 1/2 teaspoon of paprika is what the recipe calls for. So I'm going to put a little bit more. Because again, I've added a little bit more bean-ish stuff to it. So, when we add these flavorings to the liquid, what that does is then it kind of makes an infusion and the beans reconstitute with that. So it's going to let them taste kind of smoky, the same way in the old-timey, non-vegan way of cooking it with fat back. So that's how they originally got their smoky creaminess from, but we're going to work with that a different way. So we are going to cook these for 25 minutes on high. And I still would suggest that you let it release the pressure naturally at least 10 minutes, just because it'll make the cleanup a lot better. And this model of Instant Pot isn't made anymore, but it's the precursor to the Instant Pot Pro. And there is a couple of videos about that. So there's one that I unboxed when I was in Texas and one that I might be filming today where I'm just going to do it again and do a few more things with it. What I like about this one a lot is that this top, I don't know if you can see it from there. I'll put it up here and let you guys see it. Is this. So you release the pressure with just on or off, which usually you would think, oh, wow, everything would spray everywhere. But because of the way the top under this and this, it makes a very fine mist. And I find that that style is better for not necessarily, so if I was like, I can't wait those 10 minutes, it's not going to make the same kind of mess. I'm not going to have to stand there like with the Duo has that little thing and go as it lets out a little bit at a time. So I do like this a lot for that. I talked about that during Black Friday a lot. So if you guys got one, let me know down below because I'd love to know. And if you have some questions, like I said, I got one here I haven't unboxed yet, and I'd be glad to demo that for you. So our black eyed peas are done. I did realize that I left out bouillon. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some bouillon now. It's never too late. And I'm using my homemade bouillon. I haven't frozen it into cubes yet. And my homemade you can find if you want to make it in your Instant Pot on plantbasedinstantpot.com. There's a slow cooker, stovetop, and oven version on healthyslowcooking.com. Just search for bouillon. I'll try and put the links down below as well to make it a little bit easier. So let's open this puppy up. Okay. So the first thing we want to do, because I added some extra water in here, is let's make sure our beans are done. And I'm just squishing it over to the side. Pinto beans tend to cook pretty well. That's why we don't need to soak them. They're kind of, to me, in between a long cooking and a quick cooking bean. Now, I want these to be a little creamy. So as I mix them up, some of them are disintegrating, and I want that to happen because we're making these Southern style super creamy beans. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of this bouillon, which we would have put in before. Now, here's the thing. My bouillon doesn't have any salt in it. If your bouillon has salt, this is when you would add it in anyhow because we don't want any salt in here. We're also going to put a little bit of nutritional yeast. We're going to put about 2 tablespoons. This is a 2 tablespoon measure. And that's going to give it a little bit of umami flavor. And it's just going to take it a little bit over the top. I'm going to put salt and pepper in to taste. And so that may vary for you and your family. And if you don't use salt, you can use a salt substitute. I have one that's flavored kind of like Mrs. Dash, but if you're right now going, I don't have anything and I'm not supposed to eat salt, what should I do? It's easy. Just take 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder or granulated garlic, and 1 teaspoon of ground celery seed. Mix that up together really well and use it as if you would use salt. So you're not going to put it all in here, but you'll just put a pinch or 2. And see how all that looks so creamy? It's Southern style, and also if you want to think about something like red beans and rice, something New Orleans-y, this is also very similar. And you could easily add some Cajun seasoning blend to this if you want. I'm going to taste it and see if it needs any more paprika, liquid smoke, salt, or pepper, or nutritional yeast. And you should always try and taste things first before you serve it. And that way, you know, maybe these black eyed peas were somehow magically more flavorful or less flavorful. And the beans are the variable. So while I usually cook mine a little bit longer than someone like Jill Newsonow, she likes hers the way they come out of the can, right? I'm usually looking for these creamy, soulful beans that have pot liquor, and pot gravy is really more what I'm going for. It smells good. Oh my God, they taste so good. It definitely needs a little more salt. I find that black eyed peas sometimes for me need a little more salt than some other beans. I would love to put more pepper in there, but Cheryl will not tolerate it, so I'll add more pepper at the table. And I think we could do a little sprinkle of some more smoked paprika. I wouldn't put any more liquid smoke in there necessarily. And honestly, I think we could do another tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And you could serve these just in a big old bowl with a piece of bread like they do in the South. My mom and dad, that's how they ate their pinto beans, with chopped onions and kind of a relish called chow chow. That was back when I wouldn't eat beans, which is crazy, isn't it? Oh, but this is one of my favorite bean recipes. And if this is too much bean for you, I'm getting another spoon. I do have a recipe for a leftover black-eyed pea pate. That the black-eyed pea pate is to die for. It's so good, and it makes this amazing, rich, smooth pate. Yep, that was a trick. Now, we don't really have anything that's brightening things up. You could, if you wanted to, add a little splash of apple cider vinegar, but this is how I'm used to having them, and I like them this way. But if you need to have a little more acidity or brightness, that's what I would do. These are great served with collard greens, either Southern style, which is cooked a long time, or sauteed. And you could use kale. Traditionally, when we're doing greens for New Year's, we're doing something like apple cider vinegar, a little bit of hot sauce, some garlic, things like that. If you have someone in your house that just hates greens and really can't eat them yet, try squeezing like half an orange in there and getting a little bit of that juice. And I find that is very helpful. Or a little bit of balsamic. That's also kind of gives some, it passes them past that bitterness to something sweeter. Cornbread, you could stop there, or you could serve this over steamed brown rice. It's all up to you. You could also cook a baked potato, put this over, and maybe even surround it with a plate of sauteed collards. And I think that's an amazing way to start off your year, or just your day, right? Have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or have it anytime you want, any time of the year. But if you could do me a personal favor and have some on New Year's Day, I'd appreciate it. Have an amazing rest of this year and an amazing next year.